are suddenly faced with a debilitating medical emergency. I mean, a moment of crisis where your focus, your motor skills just drop to zero. Can a computer actually take over and drive better than you can?
That is the astonishing question at the center of this deep dive.
It really is. We've been analyzing a whole stack of sources detailing these real-world cases where Tesla's autonomous features were deployed, during these profound medical crises.
So our mission today for you is to synthesize these heroic, almost unbelievable stories and compare them directly against the technological reality and, of course, the intense controversy that surrounds autonomous vehicle tech.
Right. We're not just looking for cool anecdotes.
No, exactly. We want to understand the true potential for these systems to be lifesavers while also, clearly mapping out the caveats, the safety, the regulation, their current beta status. We need to explore the tech that lets this happen and the rules that are struggling to keep up.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
We're starting right in the present day with what is, I think, the most dramatic recent case. It unfolded in Reno, Nevada, just this past August 25th.
It's a terrifying scenario. I mean, just imagine this. A man is at work and he suffers an acute heart attack.
Right then and there.
Right then and there. He realizes immediately he can't drive. He just can't. So instead of waiting precious minutes for an ambulance, which, could get stuck in traffic,
Of course.
he manages to get into his Tesla and activate the full self-driving system, the FSD.
And this is where it just sounds like science fiction. The car immediately took control, navigating the roads entirely on its own to the closest hospital emergency entrance.
And the timing is what makes this story so utterly compelling.
Yeah.
Our sources say that within minutes of arriving at the hospital, the patient suffered cardiac arrest.
Wow.
He was rushed into surgery, saved, and then later underwent open heart surgery in November. The margin of time was razor thin. If he tried to drive himself or if the system took a slightly longer route,
He wouldn't have made it.
he likely wouldn't have survived long enough to even reach the operating table.
It's just a stunning example of risk mitigation. The patient himself was clearly aware of this. He later posted about it on X, and I'm quoting here. He said, "My Tesla FSD managed to take me to the destination while I was almost fainting. I actually died, but I was revived on the operating table.
Chilling.
FSD literally saved my life and potentially also that of other people on the road." I mean, it's hard to find a clearer, more powerful endorsement than that.
And this incident wasn't isolated. It connects directly to another really significant event from earlier this year. This one involved a military veteran, Max Paul Franklin, in Asheville, North Carolina, back in April.
Okay, so walk us through Max's medical crisis because the circumstances for him sound just excruciating.
Max was in a really desperate situation. Middle of the night, he was severely dehydrated, and a malfunction in his insulin pump had spiked his blood glucose level to a dangerously high 670.
670?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the crisis culminated in him experiencing a mild heart attack.
So he's incapacitated, he's alone, and he's facing a crucial 13-mile trip, that's what, about 21 kilometers, to the VA hospital.
Yeah.
And he has zero capacity for safe driving.
Zero, exactly. So he engaged FSD in his Model Y, and the key difference here is the complexity of the route. This wasn't just a straight shot down a highway.
Right.
The sources really emphasized this. The car navigated the entire journey autonomously in the rain through whatever local roads it needed to without any driver intervention. And then, once they arrived, the system even offered to park itself.
Which maximizes his time to get inside and get that emergency care.
Precisely.
I found his description of the technology really insightful. He didn't see FSD as just like a better cruise control.
Yep.
He actually compared it to upgrading from a landline phone to a smartphone. A complete paradigm shift.
That analogy is perfect. It really underscores the innovative leap. He's recognizing that the system handled navigation, decision-making, obstacle avoidance, all of it, which is so far beyond traditional driver assistance. And while he did mention his appreciation for, Elon Musk's leadership and the financial benefits, like saving nearly $1,000 on energy over 7,000 miles, the core takeaway is that the technology successfully managed a complex urban emergency route.
So we have two very recent, very clear instances, Reno and Asheville, where full self-driving allowed the car to become an active rescuer.
Yeah.
To take over completely when the human driver failed.
Right.
But to really appreciate how far the tech has come, we need to look back at the original cases, from before FSD was even a thing.
That's a crucial comparison point. It helps us understand the technological gap. So we need to introduce the 2016 case of Joshua Nearly, a lawyer from Springfield, Missouri.
Okay.
This incident predates the modern FSD system. It happened using the older Autopilot function.
And Nearly was driving when he suddenly felt this absolutely excruciating chest pain. It was later diagnosed as a pulmonary embolism, a blocked artery in his lungs, just agony. He knew he couldn't drive safely.
Right, so he quickly realized he couldn't maintain full control, so he relied on the original Autopilot. But here's the technical distinction that's so critical for you to understand.
Okay.
The Autopilot system of 2016 was essentially a level 2 driver assistance system. It required the driver to constantly provide steering torque. You had to touch the wheel every few minutes to keep it active.
So he's in agony from a blocked artery, and he has to consciously manage this interaction with
Yep.
the car. That adds a whole other layer of
A
stress.
huge layer. The system didn't drive him to the hospital entrance through city streets. It just kept him safely on the highway for 20 miles toward the hospital until he could take over for the final leg.
Right.
And that really highlights the difference. In 2016, Autopilot provided stability, lane keeping. It was a highly advanced cruise control. The success relied on Neely remaining conscious enough to give it that minimum human input.
You know, his decision process in that moment is so instructive. He realized he was a danger to himself and to others if he kept full control. He even talked about his own fear, saying he chose to trust the software because he thought, and I'm quoting, if something like that happens where I become unconscious, I'm not going to cross over the interstate and slam into somebody.
And that choice brings us back to a fundamental safety design.
Yeah.
Even the older Tesla software was programmed to detect if the driver stopped responding. It would guide the car to stop safely on the side of the road.
So the technology provided just enough assistance to stabilize what could have been a catastrophic situation on a busy highway.
Exactly.
So this shift in capability, it really forces us to redefine the human role, right? Whether it's a limited 2016 Autopilot or the advanced 2024 FSD beta, these stories show the car can provide this crucial buffer,
Right.
this layer of intelligence when human ability just drops to zero.
It's true.
But these heroic rescues, they immediately force us to confront the flip side of the coin, the controversy, the limitations, and the very real failures that exist right alongside these successes.
That is the essential balance we have to maintain. While the Reno and Asheville rescues show the technology fulfilling its highest promise, our sources are very clear that this is still a developing system. We have to acknowledge the safety questions, and they have been linked to devastating negative incidents.
And the most notorious incident cited in our material, the one that really changed public perception of the technology, was that fatal crash in Florida back in May 2016.
A true tragedy. It involved a system failure where the car's sensors just failed to detect a white 18-wheel truck that was crossing the highway against a very bright sky.
So it just couldn't see it.
It couldn't distinguish it. The car attempted to drive underneath the trailer, killing the driver. And compounding the whole issue was the finding that the driver was allegedly preoccupied. A witness reported that a DVD of Harry Potter was playing at the time of the crash.
Oh, wow. That detail, just air.
It immediately raises a huge question. Was the fault the system's failure to see the truck, or the driver's failure to monitor the system, which is a key requirement for a Level 2 feature?
It's that ambiguity of liability that makes these cases so complicated. And there were other non-fatal crashes cited too, in Pennsylvania, in Montana, where accident data showed the drivers had their hands off the wheel for far too long. A clear violation of the terms of use.
Suggesting people were over-relying on a system that still needs human oversight.
Exactly. And these failures were severe enough to trigger some serious regulatory consequences.
Yeah.
That fatal crash prompted a major federal investigation into the technology.
By the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, right?
Yep, the NHTSA. And on top of that, the SEC also reportedly opened an investigation, not into the accident itself, but into whether Tesla disclosed the crash to regulators in a timely manner as required.
So deep regulatory scrutiny. It shows that even if the technology is saving some lives, the way it's being deployed and marketed is under enormous pressure. It is. This is why critical thinking is so essential here. We're navigating a space where the technology is simultaneously an incredible safety feature and a documented contributor to devastating accidents when it's misused or when its limitations are exceeded.
So how did the technology's proponents even begin to synthesize those two stark realities? You have the heroism on one side and the catastrophe on the other.
Well, Joshua Neely, the lawyer saved by Autopilot in 2016, he offers what I think is maybe the most grounded perspective. He acknowledged the failures, but he said, it's not going to be perfect. There's no technology that's perfect, but I think the measure is that it's better and safer.
He's using an ethical framework, basically.
Hmm.
Imperfect safety is better than total human fallibility.
Exactly, and that idea is echoed directly by Elon Musk, who has strongly defended the system's deployment using global statistics. He asserted that the system is twice as good as a person, and he went even further, claiming it would be morally reprehensible to delay release just for fear of bad press.
That's a strong statement.
It is. His argument boils down to a very strict risk assessment. Musk cited that 2016 crash as the first known fatality in just over 130 million miles of autopilot use. And he dramatically contrasted that with the 1.25 million people who die in car accidents globally every single year.
So his view is, if the tech prevents a net number of deaths, it has to be deployed regardless of individual tragic failures.
That's the argument.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, it forces us back to the terminology. The sources confirm that FSD is still explicitly labeled as a beta feature. For you, the listener, this means the system requires what's known as Level 2 human oversight.
And that's the key. It is not fully autonomous in the way that, say, a future Level 4 or Level 5 system is described, where the vehicle handles everything with zero expectation of human intervention.
Right.
The term beta is the critical legal and ethical disclaimer. It implies known limitations, potential software bugs, and a requirement for the driver to be constantly ready to take over. And this raises a really complex question.
Which is,
how much automation should we trust in an emergency when the system itself is still actively in testing, requiring the compromised driver to remain, marginally aware of the vehicle's performance?
so what does this all mean for you today? I think the sources present really clear, powerful evidence that these autonomous features, even in their current beta state, can provide a crucial life-saving margin of safety during driver incapacitation.
Right. They can effectively replace the most dangerous part of a medical crisis, just getting to the hospital. And this potential exists even while the tech is still being perfected and the regulatory environment is playing catch-up.
So we have to view it as a dynamic risk management tool.
I think so. It can perform heroically when human ability catastrophically fails, but it requires us, the humans, to understand its limitations. Specifically, that it's still in a testing phase that requires driver readiness in all other circumstances. The moral calculus is sort of suspended between potential redemption and definite risk.
It leaves us with a provocative closing thought then. If we accept the statistical claim that an autonomous system, even a level 2 beta version, is demonstrably safer than a stressed, sick, or compromised human driver, does the moral imperative then shift toward immediate, widespread deployment of that technology, even before it reaches some theoretical definition of perfection?
That is the question we are all facing as this technology continues to evolve much faster than the legal and regulatory frameworks around it. It's a debate between saving a known number of lives today and avoiding the risk of a tragic system failure tomorrow.
Absolutely. We hope this deep dive into these fascinating and complex sources gave you those aha moments you were looking for. Thank you so much for joining us today as we unpack these deeply personal stories about technology, regulation, and human survival.
It was great to dig into.
If you enjoyed analyzing these sources and ideas with us, be sure to follow the channel for more deep dives into the topics that matter to you. Until next time, keep digging.